a camera, and a folded beach towel. That was my first ever astrophotography setup. With no expensive gear or real understanding of what I was doing, I still captured the night sky. Astrophotography gets complicated, but it really doesn't take much to get started. Hello, and welcome to the second video in an incomplete guide to astrophotography. In this video, I will discuss the essential gear you will need for taking your first image. To begin, we need to understand what we are doing in astrophotography. As nearly everything we will image is extremely dark, we need to get as much information as possible. To do this, we need long photos and lots of them. This is so we can combine them when we process our images to bring out these faint details. So I want you to always keep this fact in the back of your mind, that as we start, our goal is to collect lots of quality light. Before we continue, I've provided links in the description to Astro Backyard, who has great articles on quality gear, as I will focus on the gear we need and not the brands or models you should purchase. There are 3 things we need to consider in our gear. We need to focus light, record light, and stop trailing. We can do this with a lens, camera, and a star tracker. To focus light, we need a lens. A lens is a set of glass pieces that bend light to a certain point. There are 3 main characteristics we look for in a lens: aperture, focal length, and field of view. We will keep our definition simple for now, but stick around for future videos where we'll really sink our teeth into the theory behind what I will touch on today. Focal length is the zoom of your lens. It is how far parallel light rays travel until they intersect. It is measured in millimeters. The higher the focal length, the greater the zoom. To be more specific, focal length is one factor that determines your field of view. The field of view, which is typically measured in degrees, is how much of the sky you can observe. The other factor is the actual size of the sensor on your camera, which we will come back to. You can see that as the focal length increases, the field of view decreases. Aperture is the diameter of the opening in a lens. The aperture determines how much light passes through the opening. A bigger opening means more light passes through to the camera sensor. If you grab a camera, you may notice that the number measuring this has a weird F in front of it. This isn't telling you the diameter of the opening, it is actually telling you the focal ratio of the lens. The focal ratio is the focal length divided by the aperture. So if I have a focal length of 200 millimeters and an aperture of 50 millimeters, if I divide the two, I get a focal ratio of 4. Lower focal ratios allow more light to reach a sensor in the same amount of time. A focal ratio of less than 5 is generally considered fast, and anything over 5 is considered slower. To record light, we need a camera. I will preface this by saying that today, it is hard to find a bad camera. Almost every camera that you can buy will be adequate for astrophotography. There are many things to consider in cameras, such as quantum efficiency, read noise, and full well capacity. But for a first camera, you don't have to worry about such technicalities. So what should we look for? I would recommend investing in a DSLR or mirrorless camera. Entry-level DSLRs are common in astrophotography as they tend to be cheaper and many people already own one. They are also easy to use and have a long battery life. Mirrorless cameras are also excellent as they're becoming more common as technology improves. They also don't suffer from shutter slap, which sometimes occurs on DSLRs, where the shutter opening for an image can vibrate the camera. They are also lightweight. You should also look at the sensor size. Recall how I said that the field of view is not only determined by the focal length, but the camera as well. This is due to the physical dimensions of the sensor. The larger the sensor, the larger the field of view. The most important thing to consider is having full control over the camera settings. You need to be able to save raw images, control exposure time, ISO and aperture, have an option for manual focus, and it should have a screen and live view. Raw images are uncompressed and unprocessed images. They make it much easier to process our photos. Exposure time is the time that the sensor collects light for. ISO is the sensitivity of the sensor. The higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is. Aperture, once again, is the amount of light that passes through the opening of the lens. Automatic focus doesn't work in the night, so we want to be able to manually focus to achieve sharp stars. A screen allows us to review the images once captured, and live view helps us focus as well. Lastly, make sure that the camera is compatible with external devices. Many cameras are, but you don't want to find out after purchasing it. The reason is because you may want to image using programs on your computer or use an intervalometer. An intervalometer is a small device that automates a shutter on your camera. Let's say that I want to take a very long exposure. Everything is focused and the camera is ready. Now recall from the last video that as the night progresses, stars will slowly drift across the sky. This also means that stars will drift across the sensor. And as the stars move, the stars leave a line running across the frame. This is called star trailing. This is obviously bad because it limits how long we can image. So we need something that allows us to stop this star drift. This is what star trackers are for. A star tracker matches the rotation of the Earth, cancelling out the motion of celestial bodies. This gives us the ability to take longer and cleaner exposures. But you don't need a star tracker. You can just take shorter exposures, which I will show some tips to avoid star trailing if you only have a tripod. If you watched the last video, you would remember that we used equatorial coordinates, right ascension and declination, to locate objects. Most entry-level star trackers are equatorial mounts, but there's one problem. Equatorial mounts need to be balanced. When star trackers are unbalanced, the gears have an uneven load which leads to gears slipping, inconsistent tracking, and ultimately blurry images. To prevent this, we use counterweights. Counterweights allow us to balance the imaging setup along the right ascension axis, allowing for smooth and accurate tracking. As we are going to be working in the dark, I would recommend buying a red light. This means that it won't interfere with your images as much as other colors, and your eyes will remain adjusted to the dark. I also recommend some sort of storage device. I have a 2TB storage device that I use to process all of my images. Processing images is very storage intensive and can take gigabytes of space for a single night of imaging, so it's a must-have. Also, make sure you have a tripod. You will need something to attach a camera to, or a star tracker if you purchase one. Now that we have discussed the essentials, how do we select the gear that is right for us? Any entry-level star tracker will be suitable for imaging. When searching for one, make sure the maximum weight it can handle exceeds the weight of your camera, lens, and other accessories that may be on it. I personally used the Skywatcher Star Adventurer 2i when I started. It's an affordable, lightweight, and portable star tracker. This means you can take it out to remote sites without lugging around heavy equipment, and it's relatively easy to set up. If you purchase this mount, I recommend buying the Pro Pack as it comes with things like counterweights and other useful accessories. And now what about the lens and camera? In my opinion, as long as you have full control over the settings and can connect it with external devices, any camera is acceptable. Cameras are the least of your worries when you start. But how do we know what lens is good for us? Many targets that will be imaging are large in the sky, and I mean ginormous. It may seem unintuitive, but lots of objects are many times the size of the moon in the night sky. This means that we don't need a 1000mm focal length to get great images. I wouldn't recommend anything above 3 to 400mm when starting out. This is because at this range you'll be able to get plenty of detail on most objects, and with a beginner mount you likely won't exceed the maximum weight. For ultra-wide-field astrophotography, such as imaging the sky and landscape, or large portions of the Milky Way, any focal length under 50mm will work. For focusing on individual objects, a focal length of anywhere from 100 to 300mm will do. I find the best way to know the focal length right for you is to use a field of view simulator. In the description I'll link to David's Astro Tools, which is a frame of view simulator for astrophotography. So you can input the details of your camera and the focal length you'll desire, and browse the night. Try to find lenses with a low focal ratio, but make sure you can adjust this. This is because sometimes a focal ratio too low can cause the stars to be distorted towards the edge of the frame. Look at other images using the lens or focal length you have in mind, and see other astrophotographers' experience with the lens. Once again, you don't need the best camera or the newest lens to take photos of the universe. If you already have them, just use them. Now that we have a basic understanding for the essential gear in astrophotography, we can head out into the night and explore the universe. In the next video, I'll take you into my backyard to set up our gear for the first time.